So let's start off here. We were going to play this, but...
Breaking news. WVTC radio station servers compromised by evil hackers.
Sweet.
Now, returning to your normal broadcast of Banana Phone by Rafi. Brought to you by VTCSec.
So, this presentation, I'm calling Hacking Your Local Radio Station for Fun and Profit. We were on
You made money?
No, we actually didn't. It's actually just kind of a shout out to Aleph One's paper, you know. But anyway, so we have Owning Your Local Radio Station for Fun and Profit. From web vulnerability to physical access. This picture is actually me on WVTC's webcam. I just ran a wget script to just download the pictures like every 5 seconds while I was in the studio.
I did too. I wrote that too.
What's that?
I wrote a webpage that.
Oh, okay.
Question: did you pull it from the camera or from our website?
From your website.
But that only upgrades every 15 seconds.
Yeah. 15? I thought it was 5.
It's 5.
5.
Oh, I changed it.
Yeah, slid 5. Okay, anyway, before we begin, I just want to let you guys know, alright, this is the introduction slide. So what we're going to talk about is, you know, everything before we go into it. And we're going to talk about how we were just kind of just browsing around. And then we were rooting around as root. And then the full tour of the studio, and we'll talk about what we've learned. So, but before we really start off, I'm going to talk about who we are. I'm Vindictive, or Chad as you guys know me, co-president of VTCSec. I'm a sophomore or something like that here, sophomore engineering student. You guys all know me, so we'll have rzitex introduce himself real quick here.
What's up?
Hey, what's up, man? So,
What am I coordinator?
I don't know, you're
Event coordinator, I guess. Kind of helped out in this. Some stuff, yeah.
So the disclaimer here is anything you see here, don't ever try on anything you don't have permission to do it on. We have a video showing rhodey stating the fact that we do have permission to do this stuff.
It's better off to work alongside them. That's
Yep.
Put that on in.
No, it's not in our slide.
themselves.
Yeah, we do have permission to do this from rhodey. We did. So let's talk about the initial scope. We wanted to attack the WVTC radio
Empire.
station. The Empire, yeah, the evil Empire of
yes.
WVTC. So we just kind of took a look at what we had as a footprint. We scanned their web server from the outside. We simulated this as if we were going from the outside. I came through a VPN. So the only thing that was open was DNS and port 80 web. So we really did not have much to work on. So I'm kind of browsing around, looking for the standard stuff, robots.txt, you know, what you don't want search engines to look for, and I'll take questions at the end then. You guys looking for admin.php, nothing, no login. All I got was this lousy 404 message. Those are no fun to see, but then I got something different when I tried to browse to the admin directory. That's not the standard 404 that I've been seeing everywhere else, so it looked like we were onto something here, so we kept going. I tried a bunch of different directories, and I found an uploads directory with a bunch of different files in it. And I didn't take a screenshot of it, but if I was to look at the timestamps, we did see that there was a file uploaded, I think it was the night before we started doing this, so I know it was still used. So this could mean one of two things. Either it's where files go when somebody FTPs stuff up, or maybe there's a web form. So I started poking around. I browsed to admin/upload.php. Instantly I got redirected to a page called process.php. I don't know if you can read the Git parameters there, but we have the upload directory, which is uploads, temp name, we got length, media type. So what I kind of brainstormed in my head was that there's some kind of web-based upload form that sends its data through post to upload.php, which parses everything and sends it to process.php. So how do we get there? Where's the upload form? Well, it turned out to be a lot of work. I was just going to different pages and I got tired as shit looking at 404s. You know, page not found. So I gave up looking for that form after about 10 minutes and I wrote my own. So what we need here for this is we need a page that posts a file to upload.php. And the thing is, the name attribute of the file field in that form has to match what upload.php is looking for. So how do we do that? Fuzz the hell out of it. So you see here all the form inputs. I just threw a bunch of them on the page. Unique name, upload file, blah, something else. Because what it looks for is PHP generates a multi-dimensional array called files when it gets multi-part form data. And you have to make sure you have the name right. So I figured if I could just throw them all onto one page with a bunch of different names, hopefully one of my files would show up. And info.php did show up. So I browsed to it, and I know Forrest is actually looking at this right now. Don't worry, that's the only thing you can see right now, and I didn't reveal the actual
No, that's
name
fine.
of it.
There's nothing bad on there anyways.
Yeah. But when I browsed to info.php, it actually ran PHP code. So my next step was to somehow get a shell on there. PHP shell. Everybody's best friend. Could have used the C99 shell from the Russians, but finding a nice sanitized version of that's kind of hard, more expensive. So just got PHP shell from SourceForge. Gave me this nice little interface. Let me run some commands. You can see I'm logged in as the www data user. Just to show you that I was in there. If you look, you can see my info.php file down there. So, move on from here. There's a lot of super secret stuff we're not actually going to show. We were able to access a lot of files, including the database connection info, which is, the database host, password, username, table name, or database name, whatever. This eventually led to, the entire database access, root on the database machine, and we go from there. So next we wanted to actually get root. Now, as I said, there's nothing except 80 and 53 listening from the outside, so I can't just SSH into it. So here's our problems. We have no interactive shell because we're using PHP shell. It's all a web form. So you can't enter password, you can't answer prompts. We have no SSH access. We also had a little luck in the fact that passwords were reused. So eventually you can see that I do get root. I'm doing who am I here, so I'll step through that process. The thing with PHP shell, like I said, it's not a real shell. You have no interaction with the shell. You just give it a command and it spits out the output. So if it's something that asks you to do something, you can't run that command because you don't have an actual terminal. And it's noisy as shit. Every command that you send to PHP shell generates a get and a post in the logs. So SSH would be nice, but like I said, we can't say, hey, yeah, I accept the host keys, can't enter the passwords, and it's not listening from the outside. So my next step is to kind of create a reverse shell. I hope everyone knows of Netcat. It's what they call the Swiss Army knife of TCP/IP. What this does is, if they had firewalls on there, it would just bypass those. It would connect out to me. A lot of times you don't see egress filtering. It's only what's coming in that they stop ports. So I just had a listener on my machine, and I had it run bin sh. So I'd have a shell when it connected back to me. And from there I learned a nice little trick tip using SSH AskPass. I can't find the URL where I actually got this little tip from, but this lets you actually log in, or it lets you use SSH without an interactive terminal. Normally when you log in with SSH, you have to say, yes, I accept these host keys if it's the first time, and then you actually have to enter the root password. So the first line in this actually grabs those host keys and puts them into a file called known hosts. Then I put some stuff into a file called pwd in the temp directory. I echo out the root password. redirect out to dev null, so it just kind of doesn't show up. And then I make it executable. I export display, :0, and then say SSH AskPass is equal to that script I just made to echo that root password. So then SSH-T-O will specify where that user known host file is, which is what I grabbed in the first line. And then I say root at localhost, because it was actually listening on localhost. I couldn't get to it from the outside, but I could from the inside. So yeah, here we got root. I start off as the user www data. We can see that that big red line down here is my shell script that will echo the password. And I just cat the file to see it was all set, exported those variables, and ran that SSH command using AskPass. Bam, all the way at the bottom, I'm root now. So from here, we were able to actually poke around the internal network at the school, just basically pivoting off of their web server. And we were able to log into the database server, which hosted their door control. So from the outside, we had full door control access as well. We had full database access. We grabbed all those files, tarred them up, and exfiltrated the data. And by the way, I have to mention all the Google Voice and Google Calendar stuff and all the database stuff. That was really solid. That was some good coding.
You know what?
No, didn't exploit that script, did you?
No, I didn't want to spend a lot of time on that because there was a lot of cooler stuff we could do. So rzitex and we could write any script we wanted to take control of the radio screen, their webcam, their website, all that stuff. We could look at, who's got, what show at what time, what their username and password is, blah, blah, blah. So why write scripts to control the radio station when we could do it physically? Like I said, we had door control access. The way that worked was they have these custom barcode scanners, which are pretty gnarly, and basically
Ghetto would be a more appropriate word.
Ghetto, gnarly, same thing. It works. It's awesome. I liked it. But the way it works is there's a Perl script on the database/door control server that's always looking for barcode scans, and it reads off the serial device. And when it reads a scan, it checks to see if that DJ is authorized to open the doors at those times. They can open the doors during their show, 10 minutes before their show, or 10 minutes after their show.
You really looked into that one.
Oh, yeah. Well, I wanted physical access, so I did look into that. So it'll trip the relay if they do have access. So why don't we just trip the relay ourselves? I'll blank out this shit later on my phone, but if you can see, I've got ConnectBot SSH right in here. I'm root. So let's listen closely, and hopefully this opens the door. Let's go.
So you can close the door.
Yeah, we'll just go ahead and close the door. And I'll turn this off. Cool.
There you go.
So let's keep going.
Perfectly.
Oh, look at this. We got a radio station here. And there's the camera.
Everybody at home, wave to the camera.
I'm an official radio person now. Just gonna write a message to the webcam.
We have a whiteboard for that,
Yeah.
Now, what hacker would use a whiteboard?
Somebody got dry erase markers, I guess.
Probably. I don't know if I can read it well enough, but VTCSec, parts WVTC.
3.
So, yeah, that was our tour. So what we've learned from this whole excursion was error pages. You can get a lot of information off those. Just because of the fact that we had 2 different error pages, I knew that something was a little weird. That, you know, one case was different than the other. And I also learned fuzzing upload forms. I didn't realize how easy that was. It may not be the case everywhere, but when you follow tutorials and you don't change a lot of things, you can get some files up to some servers. It was just a basic exercise in reverse shells with Netcat. It's a good thing to learn if you're ever doing any penetration testing, or Netcat's just a great tool to use in general for anything. And one of the coolest things I learned was those non-interactive SSH logins with SSHX, Ask, Pass, can't talk. And huge thing was just the smallest weak point can lead to a full compromise. Their server was locked down as hard as it could be, but there was just that one little script that let me get a file up there, which just kind of collapsed the whole thing. So now I'm going to let rzitex take over here, talk about how these things can be secured.
I gotta yell at Danders. He's the one that wrote that script.
Yeah. Basically,
Yeah, I know.
the 4 parts that got us in here was SSH, network, PHP, and then there was a little bit with password. For SSH, always disable logging in with root. That was something you should do. It's just simple SSH deconfig. Just write that one line there, and it's out. Another thing, do not use passwords if you can, like WVTC. How many people really log in there via SSH stuff? Maybe rhodey, Dandrews, Forrest.
So you get fast internet.
Yeah, but I mean, use RSA, DSA keys. There's no passwords, and now they have to spoof an entire key rather than almost unlimited tries of passwords. That would have stopped me, stopped him if it wasn't for Netcat. And also use a non-standard port. Don't keep it on 22. Never keep it on 22 because a simple port scan will tell us that. And that again, you just change in the SSHD config. On the network, uninstall and disable Netcat. That was how we got in. Just put suitors, file, chownit, chmod it, move it completely, anything. That is very much a disaster. Another thing is if you're holding a database, move it to one server and keep that server from interacting with anything but what needs it. Your door control needs it and your web access needs it. Nothing else. Have that, put it into the IP tables firewall where in and out, only those. That's all you need. Maybe an SSH for internal, and that's it. For PHP, ensure that all 404 errors are the same. Again, it led to the entire journey, and it was kind of fun. And don't allow a process script that doesn't filter any type of MIME or file type data. Make it so that only MP3 or WMAs can go up, but not PHPs with executable code. Use post rather than get. Again, if it wasn't for the get script on a process, we wouldn't have been able to get up there. Because if we put it in post, how are we going to know it's actually sending it? And that's how we reverse engineer the entire thing. Also, PHP and database servers, put them on a CH root. Don't leave access to the entire server. And for passwords, use a different password for every box, every application, every daemon. If we knew the password just for the box that we were going into, and it was a different password for everything else, we would have been stuck. Same with Apache, same with PHP, same with MySQL. You're limited to just that. Well, you can still do damage with a MySQL server. You only have the MySQL server. You can't get in anything else. And then for a script, and probably both of you know who I'm going to be talking about here, do not hard code a password into a Perl script. You have all of CPAN to work with. Use GPG or PGP, encrypt a file just containing the username and the password, and then have GPG unencrypt it, the Perl script get it, and then delete or re-encrypt that password file. That way it's secure. You have to get the GPG key, but if that's on your database server versus your Apache server, again, if you're using different passwords, then you're basically safe because no one can get that. and the GPT key will be on a whole different server. Also, at least one uppercase, one lowercase, one numeric, and one symbol character. All you should know this. And my little blurb is, do not follow the XKCD hint that they were talking about with the 4 random words using all lowercase ASCII characters. That is not secure in any means, shape, or form. I'm sorry, just because you have 26 characters does not mean that can be broken. And then, any questions for either Vindictive or Rock?
I have a good question. Sounds like a lot of things that happened in here was you browsed through some source code and found out how everything worked. Would it make more sense to end up compiling, to have your daemons run from a compiled something instead of source? I don't know how you do that with, say, a Perl script.
Well, but a lot of the stuff that we did see was, PHP code.
Mm-hmm.
So, to my knowledge, I don't think there's any way.
You can compile PHP into C and run C on a web server.
Yeah, but then you need to be able to execute stuff.
There are solutions for encrypting a PHP script, and then you have to access some key thing to decrypt it and then run it. There's still you can still break it. I mean, it is one other level of security. One people might just be like, all right, screw this, I'll get the next box because it's easier. But
I mean, your door control script was written in Perl. Did you guys open the Perl script to see how all that worked?
Yeah. I opened the Perl script and saw what commands it fed to the relay control.
Didn't you also ask it Danders?
Yeah, I also let Danders know not to talk about it. He didn't really know what was going on, but I kind of social engineered him into giving me everything I needed to know. If all I knew was how to get to the code, all I needed to do was take the information he gave me, run it, and I would have been able to do exactly what Chad did. The only difference is he has an Android and I have a crappy phone.
Oh, also the source code for changing the door relay state was still on there, so I wouldn't have to reverse engineer that either. But yeah.
Can I just make a quick comment about SSH ports here?
Yeah.
You recommend not leaving it at 22, and that's good advice most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're working in a team and you're making a non-standard port, make sure to write it down.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Always document everything.
If that becomes an issue, leaving it on 22 is not a huge deal because people are going to find it anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'd like to point out that I could have made your job a whole lot easier if I didn't procrastinate. Port 2221 is open to that box, but SSH is not running on that port.
Okay.
You would have had SSH anyways if I actually set up SSH. Peter's been bugging me to do that for 3 months now, and I was like, meh. No.
Well, learned ASPass though, which is pretty.
Yeah, that was a little trick that I've been looking for forever. I'm sure I know Rhodey knows the Zencart code execution vulnerabilities. If we were able to run ASPass there, if I was, that would be awesome.
I just want to comment to that. Also with SSH, if we didn't want to be lazy about it. We actually wanted to do it as if we were an external party. From the school.
We were too.
Yeah, before we even thought about doing Netcat or anything like that, I already had root access to a couple machines via SSH from inside the school. So you still had that problem.
Yeah.
But still, it was probably a good thing that you didn't have SSH running.
Another thing, just building up the non-standard port thing, it's not going to do a whole lot to have it on a non-standard port, but if you have it on a higher number one, a lot of script kiddies won't catch it if they just do a basic Nmap scan that's only going to go from ports 1 to 1000. So, I mean, if you can connect to any port on TCP, like with Telnet, you can see what kind of service it's running. But putting it on a higher port than 1000 will stop the people that don't know Nmap port flag. So.
You should be afraid of people that don't know Nmap port flag though.
I
If
don't
you
know
have
if I'd be
an
afraid
upload
of them.
script available that doesn't stop you from uploading anything other than
I'm going to
MP3s.
smack Danders.
See, this is also a lesson in software development because I actually wrote a whole bunch of PHP classes to work with cookie authentication and all this nice stuff and everything. I gave it to our whole software team. I said, "Here, implement this," and it is all throughout the admin directory implemented. All these PHP scripts, except when you upload files, for some reason we don't want to password correct that. I guess.
Yeah,
I actually think you mentioned you never found the HTML file to send the post data.
I don't think I actually looked too much.
Yeah.
I did. I ended up finding it's just at that point we already had our own
Yeah.
local files at some point.
I'm guessing that one was actually password protected. No, not at all.
No,
Wow.
I
Okay.
just, when I went through and we ended up grabbing all the files that we targeted, it was just one of them that I ended up grabbing in probably the first 20 minutes.
Could have been an include statement. We've been all set.
Ben, you remember your question?
Sort of, how were you able to execute the PHP file? How were you able to execute the file that you uploaded?
Well, it's basically PHP was running on. It was running with Apache, so any file that I browse to with the .php extension, PHP knew, Apache knew to say, okay, it's a .php extension, pass it to PHP with, as a handler.
So you upload shell.php, and then you went VTC shell.php, and you had shell.
Oh.
Yeah, I could run any
shell.
PHP.
Yeah, I know that, but
Yeah.
anyway. Oh yes, it was the password getpass or something that you were AskPass. What was that doing? That was
that's basically saying, hey, don't get the password from a terminal. Use this script to get it. I really don't know much more than that, or if that's even correct. But
where did you get the real password from?
it was actually a password that was reused multiple times.
So you knew the password at that point. It doesn't check the password from the system somehow.
There was nothing exploited to log into root. It was just...
Yeah, it wasn't an exploit. It was just knowing the password. AskPass doesn't do anything. It doesn't, go around anything. It's basically...
It's just a way of doing it.
Yeah, it's a substitute for you sitting there typing into the terminal.
It's like I was saying with RSA or DSA. I don't know if you've ever worked with it. You set it up, you create your key, and you give it to the server. That way, whenever you log on, they just you give it the key, matches up, says, all right, you're authenticated, I'm going to give you a terminal, and then it goes through.